Hello, everyone. This is Keith Stone with the Center for Hellenic Studies here again for another dialogue with Greg Nagy. Hello, Greg.
Hi.
And with Janet. Thanks for coming, Janet. And we're going to talk today about Euripides, one of my favorite tragedians that we read in association with the Heroes course and materials. Greg, could I ask you, what do you like about Euripides? Or what's his unique contribution, could you say?
Well, to me, he's practically the only person who's a real master of modernity among the various masters of poetry we've been reading. He's really modern. And I can't even think of him as classical. I can think of Sophocles as classical. I could think of Aeschylus as almost pre-classical, archaic. But the thing about Euripides is that he experiments so much with traditional forms. That doesn't mean that he's modernist in the sense that he does away with traditions. I'd say it's more that he enjoys playing with a whole variety of traditions. I sometimes say, and this is purely subjective, that if I would be guessing that Aeschylus in any given tragedy is treating maybe 2 or at most 3 different kinds of myths that he knows, I would say that Sophocles, by comparison, would be maybe working with 4 or 5. And then I would say Euripides would be working with 500. He is just all over the place in collecting exotic traditions involving the myths and traditions of Greek-speaking people that most Athenians will not know about. I really doubt that most Athenians who would attend the Hippolytus of Euripides would know the version of the myth that he has decided to use. The version that he is using in our Hippolytus, because he had done other tragedies named Hippolytus, at least one other. The thing about this one is that it is clearly based on the local myths and traditions of the city of Troezen, or Troezen. You can spell it both with O or O-I. And not only is he dealing with myths and rituals, but what could be more interesting than the description of a female initiation? And that's what you actually see at the end of the Euripides, where the figure of Artemis is actually describing a ritual of female initiation where young girls cut off their hair and sing songs of lament to commemorate the tragic love affair of Phaedra and Hippolytus. I can't even call it a love affair. It's unrequited love. But in any case, here's this singing and dancing that is somehow part of an initiation. And it's really spelled out in the tragedy of Euripides named the Hippolytus. This is not something that's made up. And he'll do this not only here, but elsewhere as well. And we have a fancy word for it. This is aetiology. Aetiology being a myth that somehow motivates a very important, a very central ritual in the classical period. And as usual, things go wrong in the myth. Things go wrong with Phaedra.
Mm-hmm. Are you saying, could I interrupt a second, Greg?
Sure.
That that's a unique, the etiologizing is a particular unique contribution of Euripides? Or
almost unique.
Just that
almost unique.
Okay, because I was thinking, okay, so counterexample, perhaps. I was thinking of the trilogy of Aeschylus that we read. And to me, it reads like an etiology of the jury system.
Okay,
but
you've
perhaps
got me.
Perhaps a modified one.
No, you really nailed me there.
Gotcha.
It's absolutely true that the Aeschylus trilogy, as we call it, definitely does tie in with the ritualized practice of trial by jury in contemporary Athens. So I grant you that. I guess I was thinking more in terms of Sophocles, where the only etiology I really see in the attested plays, in the attested dramas, is in Oedipus at Colonus. But even there, the rituals of worshiping Oedipus as a cult hero are not particularly highlighted. It's more the fact that he is a cult hero.
Right. They're kept secret, in fact, the rituals.
Yeah.
At the end.
So I guess I'll modify what I said. Let me try to say it another way, is that with Euripides, it's pretty consistent that he will refer to the etiology of a given ritual in terms of the myth that he is treating. It happens not only in the Hippolytus, but other dramas. Can't really tell with the Bacchae, with the Bacchic women, with the Bacchantes, because the textual history of the drama, of that drama, is pretty messy towards the end. We don't really have a very well preserved textual tradition for the way that drama ends. But the etiology in the Hippolytus is truly remarkable. It's just wonderful.
Totally agreed. Yeah.
And one of our participants, one of our participants was worried about whether we can assume that in Athenian state theater, the participants in the chorus, that is to say in the song and dance ensemble, were boys. And unfortunately, it's not that I approve, but that does seem to be the case, that both for the chorus and for the complement of actors, only males were allowed to perform in Athenian state theater. People have now come around to seeing that probably there was a complement of women who were attending Athenian state theater, but they were certainly not actors or participants in the chorus. And you can't blame Euripides for that. I'm not trying to be an apologist for ancient Greek society or for any member of that society, but it was just a given that only males were performing, non-professionally in the case of the chorus, the song and dance ensemble, and then professionally in the case of actors. On the bright side, it's interesting how Euripides experiments with virtuoso singers. He does that in the form of monody. And we don't have a really good example of a monody in the two dramas we read, but sometimes Euripides would recruit a virtuoso singer because he was sick and tired of, may I say this way, dumbing down the music to be able to accommodate the chorus, who would be these boys who may have been good dancers, but most of whom were probably not very good singers. So
here's a question, Greg.
Yes.
Do we know if there is something like tragedy in other city-states? Is this a uniquely Athenian thing?
It seems to be
there
an
been
Athenian.
Choruses of girls in other cities? I mean, it seems like there's a chorus of some kind of girls.
Well, choruses, yes. Choruses
Hippolytus.
and choral reenactments, yes. But
not tragic ones,
the full-blown structure of Athenian state theater with the evolution of eventually 3 actors in the case of Euripides, that's distinctly Athenian, distinctly.
Okay, so I've often thought of these
Yeah.
tragedies as like characteristic of the ancient Greeks, but this is really a very specific tradition belonging to Athens.
It's very specific, and then it spreads like wildfire in the Hellenistic period, and then into the period of Roman domination of the Greek-speaking world. So theaters are everywhere, but here you can really say that it's an Athenian institution, and it starts with Athens.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, Hippolytus is certainly one of my favorites that we read. Or Euripides is what I meant to say, but I slipped and revealed the name of my actual all-time favorite of my one all-time favorite of the plays that we read, which
is which one?
The Hippolytus.
Oh yes, I rank it way up there too. And another thing I really like about it is the second guessing of female psychology. In one way, you could say, well, Euripides is perpetuating myths about female psychology, female sexuality, but in another way, at least we can say that he's interested in the subject. Can't really say it the same way for Sophocles, and certainly not for Aeschylus. So I don't know. I think he has a. Go ahead.
He's making Athenian boys becoming adults. He's making them inhabit this female role. It's not just discoursing about it, but they have to act it out. That's a pretty powerful.
Yes, and I think that's something interesting, because it would imply that in order to be initiated into adulthood as a man, you have to at least try to understand how women feel and think, even if those feelings and thoughts are perhaps not 100% accurately represented. So I'm not saying that Euripides nails it necessarily with female psychology, but people have said that in the past about him.
Mm-hmm. But some of it's certainly wrong, obviously, with the wind and all of that stuff. But
oh well, but that's more like myth. After all, even in Aeschylus, you see a lot of references to winds in connection with the uterus. So that's part of myth making, really. That's not so much popular thought, or how else would we put it? Stereotypical thinking. It's an aspect of myth, and it has to do with the fact that Artemis, the goddess, was worshipped as a goddess of winds, and she controls the winds that people depend on for sailing, and she also controls the uterus and certain aspects of female identity, like giving birth or menstruation. Not sex, but all the other things that have to do with being a woman.
Mm-hmm. So because of Artemis,
not sex,
these things are
not sex. That's something that Aphrodite is in charge of, not Artemis. And of course, I love to meditate how Euripides' Hippolytus really gets things skewed. He understands that Artemis for men is the goddess of the hunt, the goddess of athletic exercise, but he gets things very mixed up when it comes to why he's so attracted to her, since she has nothing to do with sexuality, and yet even though Hippolytus is, how shall I say, anti-heterosexuality, he nevertheless speaks as if he were attracted to Artemis. That's one of the strange features of Euripides' drama, that Hippolytus does have, if I can use that American slang, he has a crush on Artemis. He definitely does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's what I like. One thing that I like so much about this play is the complexity of it, and this kind of disguising of his true motives or something like that.
Yes.
Plus the fact that you have two heroes and two divine antagonists.
Yes, we really do. So it's a very good drama to think with when we worry about the myth of human divine antagonism. You really see it very clearly here. You see wonderful distinctions between adult and pre-adult mentalities on the level of ritual and myth. So it's very good to think with, even if we don't like it, or even if there are some aspects of it that put us off. It still forces us to think about what it is to be a man and what it is to be a woman back then, and how myth focuses the distinctions between male and female.
That makes me think that we've read in these other plays of choruses that are acting out female roles. So in the libation bearers, I think it's the women of the household.
Yes.
Who are the chorus. In the
Yes.
third, in Eumenides, they are the female furies.
Yes.
What else? Oh, in the Bacchae, they're the women of Thebes.
Oh yes, it's all over the place where male actors or chorus members are acting out the roles of females. That happens in non-theatrical poetry as well, or song making, as in Bacchae, where a male chorus, a male ensemble of singers and dancers can at any moment reenact what nymphs will be singing and dancing, or women or girls. So it's all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And not just choruses. Oh, go ahead, Jenna.
Sorry. Would they wear masks? So for the audience, it would be
Yes.
the mask, not the behind. So there's imagination already there.
And that's a good point, which is that the masks make everything such an act of projection anyway, that you're not distracted by what the real gender of an actor or at least a participant would be. It's a very good point.
And I think female performers on stage didn't come for so long. I think male performed the woman parts.
Yes, it's a long and winding road,
Yeah.
and I mean, isn't it true that even in Shakespeare's time, actors were only male?
Right.
I was going to ask Janet what she likes so much about Euripides, if you can put it into words.
Yes, I think he dares to go places others wouldn't go. You know, to me, Sophocles is very straightforward, very Athenian, and he wouldn't dare to switch his position. At least Euripides presents other aspects, and
Yes.
he is trying to explore.
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Euripides writes
I agree.
tragedies that are very much involved with the ideology, so to speak, or the idea of the mask and switching identities, putting on and taking
Yes.
off this or that identity, which fits really well with Dionysus as a god also. So it's very appropriate that these happen during the city Dionysia, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I would say Euripides is more inspired by the god worshipped during the Dionysia than the other tragedians. That's how I put it. All right. Well, that was a good discussion.
That was a great discussion, and we should maybe encourage the people out there. If you're falling behind, don't worry. Just try to catch up and I think you'll find the readings towards the end not so much easier, but faster to go through. It's a kind of more intense experience. I think it'll take you less time to read these tragedies than with some of the other readings. I'm not saying it's going to be easier, but it'll be maybe a more concentrated and intense experience. So I envy those of you who are doing it for the first time, because first impressions are so precious, and I hope you have a good time with it.